Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Geekcenter. My name is Corey Morset. I'm the Right Honorable Commissioner of the Geektacular Division here in the Movie Trivia Face-Off, and we have got a tremendous match for Week 3. Two ranked competitors are going to be facing off, and to help us break down this match is the number 2 ranked competitor in the entire league, Thomas the Warhawk Scully. Hey, Thomas, how's it going?
It's going well, Corey. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am really looking forward to this week's match. Ever since we booked it, Ruben versus Mike Shea. Two fantastic competitors. But before we get into that, Thomas, I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit. You're, of course, ranked number 2. A lot of people say you should be ranked number 1. I'm kind of among them. You've been completely dominant in your 2 matches here. But what are your thoughts on the Geektacular division heading into Season 2 here?
It's growing. It's growing. We're seeing a lot of great new competitors coming in. A lot of people from last year coming in, proving themselves. Why they belong in the upper echelon. Looking at these at these rankings, every single one of these players is I would consider them elite. I would consider them to be so strong in their geek knowledge. But knowledge is half the battle. I think also you have to take into consideration strategy and take into consideration how well-rounded you are. I think being well-rounded is what, separates the S-tier players from, shall we say, the pretenders, the people who look good, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, they may not be as talented as it seems. But looking at these rankings, there's really not a lot of people I would say are pretenders, So yeah, I'm very excited to see where it goes with Season 2. I think World War Geek's going to really show us, who the top tier players are. So yeah, I'm really excited for that.
As am I. Now, this week, we've got 2 opponents that you might be familiar with. One of them you actually faced here in the Movie Trivia Face-Off. That's Ruben, and that one loss on his record was courtesy of you.
Yeah, I mean, as much as he tries to ignore that, I did hand him his first loss. But, characters, kayfabes aside, he's a really good player. He really is. He's grown a lot since our match. His match against Jackson Latner was great. He rematted well. And then he had a statement win against Mark Kamier, who he was trading blows with back and forth over social media. So, yeah, that was a statement win for him. And this is a chance for him to seal his fate as a top tier competitor. I think if he can win against Mike, there's no doubt that he is one of the main contenders for the geek title.
Without a doubt. And you're looking at a competitor in Mike Shea, 2-0 as well, undefeated. Now, there was a little bit of controversy we had to deal with this week. I just wanted to explain this real quick. Mike Shea did have a match against Mark Kamier a long time ago, before I was involved with the administrative group here in the Movie Trivia Face-Off, so I didn't know anything about it. But apparently in that match, one of the competitors, I'm not even sure who, was given identical questions from a previous match they had in round 2. So the decision was made to just scrap that match and to give each of them a rematch or a different match against another opponent at another date. During kind of our tumultuous times there, when there's a whole big lot of turnover, I think that got skipped over a little bit. So that match has been expunged from the records. That's why Mike's at 2-0, Mark's at 1-1. But Mark is going to get a match against the opponent of his choosing very, very soon here as kind of a makeup, and for being so understanding through this whole mix-up phase. So when we look at the tail of the tape, that's why you're going to see Mike Shea 2-0. And let's take a look at the tail of the tape right now. As soon as I get that rolling, there we go. And here we can see Mike Shea 2-0 with the 1 knockout. Round 1 accuracy, very, very good at 90%. Round 2, he takes a little bit of a dip at 75%, only 1 for 3 on his steal opportunities so far. And in round 3, he's only had to answer the 1 2-point question. Whereas you look at Ruben 2-1 with the 1 knockout. Round 1 accuracy, tremendous at 93%. Round 2, even better, 94%. Perfect 2 for 2 on steals, and 2 for 2 on his 2-point questions in the 3rd round, missing a 3 and missing a 5. Thomas, when you're looking at the tail of the tape here, what jumps out at you?
Well, I think obviously on paper, the thing that jumps out is, the disparity in numbers. Obviously both are great in round 1. Ruben has shown that in round 2, he's a lot better. But the thing that jumps out to me is he hasn't had that many opportunities in round 3. And you see, yes, he's 2 for 2 in his 2-pointer, but the only time he's ever had to answer 3 and a 5, he's missed. Now, granted, that was in his first match against me, but you see through that no one has really pushed him to the later stages of round 3. If Mike can push him to his 3 and his 5, Mike could have an opportunity to win. I think on paper, Ruben's going to have the advantage throughout the whole match. The wheel might affect that a little bit, but I think Ruben's a very well-rounded player. So that's not the wheel might not affect him as much as it does some other players.
Now, in Mike's case, playing a couple of newer players in the league when he faced them, Chris Diaz was his second win, who we actually just saw completely dismantle Garth the Viking, Harkness McMurray this past week in Geektacular. But still, looking at his numbers, pretty impressive. Was there anything that impressed you about Mike Shea in your rewatch?
Yeah, Mike Shea, he's a guy that he's really underrated. I mean, look, yes, he's played some quote-unquote lesser opponents, but, you take a look at Chris Diaz, he just KO'd his last opponents. And Chris Diaz has talked a lot in the chat, but so far the talk's held up a little bit. I was very impressed with his performance against Garth, and for Mike to completely take control of his match against Chris, that was very impressive. So while I don't think Mike has never faced a guy like Ruben before, but I think if he studies well, if he can sort of stay with Ruben, not try so hard to be ahead of him in rounds 1 and 2, he stays composed, stays cool, calm, and collected, I think he can have a very successful showing.
No, I agree with you totally, and a lot can come down to the wheel, as it always does when you have two evenly matched opponents. We'll actually show you the wheel near the end of the show, but let's keep going with Mike the Hypeman Shea. Let's take a look at his player spotlight and how he does in some of our main categories. Of course, we have the main 8, which everybody knows, and then maybe a couple other categories. So taking a look here, DC, 75%, DCEU, only 50%. So maybe a little weakness shown on the DC side of things, but then you see him with Marvel, MCU, and Middle Earth all hitting at 100% so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally think DC, when it comes to to DC, DCU, they're the biggest wildcard categories, because you could get something from a question from a film like Batman 89 or something like Wonder Woman or, Man of Steel. But then you can also get questions from films like Suicide Squad and Steel and Superman for the Quest for Peace. So it does test your well-roundedness a little bit, but it is a very difficult category. And then same with Marvel, because you could get great Marvel films like some of the X-Men movies or Blade, but you can also get stuff like the most recent Hellboy, or you could get some other just god awful Marvel films that we've had these last 20 years. But Mike's held his own in that category, and that's really impressive.
I think it was either Marvel or MCU was actually one of his round 2 categories where he ran the table. So that's a perfect 5 for 5. So definitely strengths of his there. Let's take a look at the second page. We have Star Trek, again, another strength at 100%. Star Wars at 67. He wasn't asked a lot of questions in Star Wars. I believe that's a 2 for 3 situation, so maybe a little misleading on the percentage, but Wizarding World, he's been perfect. Movie quotes, he was perfect. And Heroes and Villains is the other category where he had a ton of questions in, drawing a respectable 60%.
Yeah, and the Heroes and Villains is an interesting category because it's any comic book character in canon, really. So you could get, again, a Spider-Man, a Batman, and a Hulk, but then you can also get questions from really deep cut mixed bag movies. Like you could probably get something from like Darkman, like the Sam Raimi film from like 1990. You get something from Catwoman. You get stuff like from Sin City, Jonah Hex, films that aren't as popular in the geek realm, but they're still eligible to be asked about. So again, Heroes and Villains, I think, is like an extension of Mixed Bag, where it's like everything's up for grabs. So again, I'm not surprised that he's had some issues in Heroes and Villains, but honestly, we all have. Like, even the best competitors out there have had issues with Heroes and Villains.
You're absolutely right. And I want you to remember movie quotes. He was hitting 100% on that. That's going to come into play a little bit later when we talk about the week.
Absolutely.
So let's go over to Ruben the Kingslayer Cologne. very impressive. Of course, his numbers DC 100%, DCEU again another 2 for 3 situation, 67%. Marvel and MCU both 100%, and Middle Earth, I believe, just missing the one question. He's at 88%. So pretty solid all the way through this first page here.
And this speaks to how well-rounded he is. I mean, he knows when he studies, he knows to hit all the marks. He knows to hit his Marvel, his DCs, Middle Earth, all that stuff. Again, like, both competitors are really strong in Marvel. So you have to think if they maybe get that category in round 2, they'll have to think twice about taking it, because that's something the other competitors are really good in as well. And that's where that strategy comes into play here.
You're absolutely right. And strategy is going to be big in this match here, I think, when you have the number 4 seed taking on the number 5 seed. Let's take a look at his next page here. Star Trek 100%. Star Wars, again, I don't think asked a lot of questions there. Could be like a 2 for 4 situation. He's at 50%. And then perfect on Wizarding World, perfect on movie quotes, and movie release dates, 50%. Again, just 1 for 2, I think, on there. But movie release dates was a category he specified as being a strength of his.
Yeah, and movie release dates is like, if you had cable when you were a kid and you saw the TV guide, when a movie pops up, the release date of the movie pops up right alongside it. So if you had a TV guide as a kid, you know movie release dates already. So it's one of the easiest categories to study because it's all data bank questions. So I think it's a strength of almost everybody's. I wouldn't really say it's a big weakness of anybody in this league. So when somebody says it's a strength, it's not really saying much, honestly.
That's an interesting perspective on movie release dates that not a lot of people would know. So thank you for that. Now, I said really pay attention to movie quotes and movie release dates, because for the first time this season, and something we're going to continue throughout the season, is each competitor is going to be able to choose a wheel slice on the wheel for their match. So Mike Shea picked movie quotes, and Ruben picked movie release dates. So let's just take a look at the wheel here. So you got your main 8, of course, and of course spinners and opponent's choice. And then, we got movie release dates and movie quotes. So, kind of an interesting wheel. It's a tough wheel, I think. But when you got 2 of the best in the game, I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah, and you said that Mike picked quotes, right? That brilliant strategy, because if he's that good in quotes is something that can get really, really deep cut. Quotes is something where you have to know the movie like the back of your hand in order to guess who said it or to complete the line or whatever. So potentially taking advantage of that, if Ruben's not as good as quotes as he may be, that's going to be huge for Mike if he gets it, or if Ruben gets it in round 2. And movie release dates, again, like I said, it's one of the easiest categories to study. So while if you get it, and that's a guaranteed like 9 or 10 points for you, if your opponent gets it, it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So at the end of the day, we've kind of broke down the numbers here. We have number 4 Ruben Cologne versus number 5 Mike Shea. Who are you picking in this match?
Damn, it's tough. It really is. As much as I love Mike, and as much as I've seen him progress, I have to take Ruben, only because he has got to put his money where his mouth is. He's been talking a lot about being the champion, and I hope it translates to his performance. I think it will translate to his performance. So I think he comes out of it. I don't think it's going to be a TKO. I think Mike is going to force him to hit, at the very least, his 3. I'm going to say Mike misses his 5, and the score ends up being, let's go with 23-21. How about that?
You know what? I am right there with you. I was thinking the exact same thing, that it would go to, Mike would hit his 3 and then maybe drop the 5 to give Ruben a win. The only thing that worries me a little bit about Ruben, he's doing a lot of talking, he's doing a lot of thinking, maybe past this match. He's got his eyes on World War Geek. He's got his eyes on David Garcia on a rematch with you. Maybe he's overlooking the Hypeman a little bit. So that kind of works.
Yeah, it's possible. And when you run your mouth more than you run your brain, you're always going to run into issues. That's my biggest pet peeve when it comes to the fan leagues. You got people who are more invested in making themselves fearful in terms of character, rather than just studying what you know. And when you do that, and when you lose, you look like an idiot. So I hope Ruben doesn't end up looking like an idiot, because I would like to see him at his full strength in World War Geek. I don't want to see a depleted, disappointed Ruben at World War Geek, because he wants to face me again, and that's great. But he's got to beat the Hype Man first. I think he will, I have confidence in him that he will do it. So don't let me down, Ruben.
So we're both picking Ruben in a very, very close match. No TKO happening here. It could come right down to the 5-pointer. So Ruben Cologne with a slight edge maybe over the Hypeman. But this very easily could go Mike Shea's way as well. Let's take a look at what we got coming up here pretty quick. We're taping a match with Joe Hot Fuzz Fairley and Malcolm the Crazy Kiwi Lay coming up. That's going to be a lot of fun. Hillbilly Scribs is going to take on Nicholas Tuhig from the League of Shadows. That's going to be a great match. And you've got a match coming up soon, my friend. You're taking on Dave the Dragon Lees.
Yeah. First things first, I want to say, you want to look at an exciting rookie, keep your eye on Nicholas Tuhig. That dude knows his stuff. That dude's going to turn a lot of heads when he debuts. But when it comes to my match, look, I wanted to play somebody who was good. I wanted to play somebody who had maybe a TKO or a KO on their record. I didn't want to, inflate my record with wins against mediocre players. I mean, I want to play the best people in this league en route to a title. And playing Dave, who had a astonishing KO in his first match, I accepted the challenge right away because I know he's a great match. He played a great match against TJ the Terror Starman, I believe.
Yep.
And he's a nice guy. He doesn't, he doesn't run his mouth. He doesn't talk a big game. He comes in, he studies, he does his job, and then he takes his ball and he goes home, no matter the outcome. And that's what I love about some of the people in this league. They know when to stop talking and they know when to start studying. So I'm very excited to play TJ. I'm sorry, to play Dave. I know it's going to be a great match, but I view this like my match against Jay Overmeyer. He came in 1-0, he upset somebody, and I TKO'd him. Not saying it's going to be the same result, but you better have been studying, Dave, because I want to be 3-0, and I want to be at my best going into World War Geek. And bottom line, I want that belt.
There you have it, and that's going to be a tremendous match. I'm revamping how we're doing the rankings here in the Geektacular division, so it's all numbers-based. There's going to be no strength of schedule or anything like that. It's going to be all on hits and misses and wins and losses and KOs. And with that new system, you'll see Dave the Dragon Lees creep up the rankings quite a bit, maybe into the top 10 here, because that one win was so dominant. And that's going to be a fantastic match against yourself, Thomas. We're taping that the weekend of March 21st, 22nd, so look for that around the 26th of March. Just a lot of tremendous matches happening in Geektacular here. Thomas, before I let you go, is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to let the people know? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. I'm part of the New British Empire, of course, like the MB network. We try to do MB live game nights every Friday. We sometimes go live on Wednesdays, but our main thing is Schmo Center. So if you watched it before, you know that we're a show. We break down every Schmodown match right after it premieres. Today, the 14th, we just did one on the match between Bonnie Somerville and Brett Sheridan. That's currently up on YouTube. We also live stream it in the Movie Tradition on Facebook group. We break down the matches from an analytical perspective, go into the strategy of the game, what's in the mindset of the players, of the managers, and we look ahead to the matches of the following week. So we go live after every Shmodown match stops premiering on YouTube. We also did a live a post New York live event reaction. So that's up there on YouTube. And on February 29th, the night of the Atlanta live event, right after that ends, we will be going live, breaking down the matches, previewing the matches that will premiere down the line. So we got a lot of exciting stuff over on the MB network, feature presentation productions up on YouTube. Me personally, if you just want my thoughts, search out my name, follow me on Twitter. I have a lot of okay takes on movies, sports, life in general. But yeah, that's it for all my personal plugs, really.
There you go. I'm a big fan of Schmo Center, so once we end the broadcast here, I haven't had a chance to watch the Bonnie Brett match yet, but I'll watch that, then I'm going to check Schmo Center out right after. So Thomas the Warhawk Scully, thank you very much for joining us this week.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a great match this week. Hopefully you'll check it out, and thank you everyone watching, and we'll see you next week on Geek Center.